afterwards if you need to. But I do encourage you to go ahead and ask questions, right? I don't mind interruptions or anything of that nature. I'm here to help you all understand APA. We're going to talk a little bit about plagiarism as well. And I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am the tutoring specialist at the Writing Center. So we have worked extensively over the years with APA and students who need help with citations or uh, how to embed quotes or anything of that nature. And I want to let you all know that if you all ever have any type of writing need, and this is even after you all graduate, because you are alumni of UTRGV, you can use our services. So you can always reach out to us through our website. And at the end of this presentation, I'll go ahead and I'll share the website information with you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen right now, and I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation. At the end, I will provide also a link to another video that we have created for the Writing Center, and it will be kind of similar to this presentation, but it will also be about APA and plagiarism, avoiding plagiarism. Okay, so let me see if I can get this trying to my slideshow, but let's see. Okay, well, I think I'm just going to have to do it this way. Okay, so I'd like to talk a little bit about plagiarism first, because I want you all to know the reason why you all need to understand and cite correctly. Okay, one of the main reasons why we need to know how to cite our sources is because we want to avoid plagiarism. Now, some people may think they know what plagiarism is, some people may not. So I'm going to begin with a definition. Plagiarism is when you take credit for someone else's ideas or work. So I can't stress this enough. Even if you plagiarize unintentionally, okay, the university still recognizes it as plagiarism. It is still considered academic dishonesty, and it can even lead to expulsion from the university. So it can lead to some pretty serious consequences. So if we go to the sanctions, if you go to my UTRGV and you search sanctions, academic integrity violations, you will see this document right here. And there are four categories of violations that can be committed. And I just wanted to point out that plagiarism is already a category 2. It's already a category 2 violation. Okay, so they have their sanctions here. You can be placed on disciplinary probation. You will be mandated to attend an academic integrity seminar. You might be expected to write a reflection paper. You could lose your grade, right? You would get a 0 on the paper. You could even fail the class. So it's really important that you understand how to cite and avoid plagiarism. And I just wanted to point out also, here's plagiarism right here, but if you do it twice, right? Let's say you committed plagiarism the first time, you didn't know you were committing it, but then it happens again, then it automatically jumps to a level 4 violation. And so depending on the severity of the plagiarism, it can even lead to a 1-year suspension, okay? And even expulsion or permanent separation from the university. So it's super important that if you have any questions about plagiarism or how to cite or anything like that, even after this presentation, it's really important that you reach out to the Writing Center or to your professors or someone who can help you. Okay, so APA, let me give you a little background on this. This is stands for the American Psychological Association. It is currently in its 7th edition, and I believe that they upgraded to the 7th edition back in 2019, so it's fairly new. Some of you may be in classes where a professor may be telling you to use the 7th edition, but there's still elements of the 6th edition in there. Or maybe the professor will tell you, I want the 7th edition, but if you have the book or you go to the online writing lab at Purdue or another resource, you might notice some changes. So what you have to do is pretty much follow your professor's instructions, but be mindful that if they change something about APA, if they told you, well, I still want the running head or I still want this, that doesn't mean that if you go to another class the next semester, that that's going to be acceptable, like the little tweaks and changes that some professors make, okay? So it's better to learn appropriately how, what is uh, the appropriate format of citing American Psychological Association 7th edition, um, so so that you know that when they are changing a little bit of something, you still retain the knowledge of what it really is. This is just one of many ways to cite your sources. There's literally thousands of ways out there. You may be familiar with MLA, Chicago style, this APA, but there are literally thousands of ways to cite your sources. It's used primarily in the social sciences. So this is going to really help you, not just academically, if you are pursuing this, your careers are in social science, if you are going to continue with your psychology degrees, but it will help you in your career because you may go on to graduate school, you may go on to publish, right, in your career. You may write something someday and publish, and they'll want it in APA style. So this is really going to benefit you in the long run. Also, aside from plagiarism, knowing how to cite in APA adds credibility to your writing, because when you are citing, you're really telling the audience, you know what, I'm making this claim, but here's my evidence. And these are, the experts that I'm quoting, or paraphrasing. And whoever's reading your paper is going to understand that, you're telling the truth, right? You're not just making things up. So when a reader looks at that citation within your paper, then they're going to know, based on the year, they're going to know that this is updated research. The authors, they might recognize some of the authors, or when they look up the authors, they might know, these authors are experts, right? So it is going to add a certain degree of credibility to your writing. And of course, it's going to allow your audience to delve deeper into your topic. Remember that anything that you write is meaningful. So even your professor, if he reads a paper and there's something interesting that he finds in the paper, and he says, you know what, I'm going to go back and I'm going to read more about this topic, or she made this claim or he made this claim, and I'm going to go back into that reference and I'm going to read more about that, right? So that's really why we use APA. It's really for the benefit of the audience as well. Okay, so the characteristics of APA are pretty simple. One of the fonts that is used primarily is Times New Roman, but that doesn't mean that you can't use any other fonts. When they updated to the 7th edition, they became a little bit more flexible with their fonts, given that we have a lot of technology, there's different technology, given the fact that students have different needs. There might be some accessibility issues. Somebody might have to use something other than Times New Roman just to be able to read it better, things like that. But the key is to be consistent. If you are going to use a particular font, you need to make sure that it is consistent throughout the whole paper, okay? And of course, it should be in 12.5. So the margins are easy to remember, 1-inch margins all around and double spaced. So it makes for a very clean and organized paper, and a paper that's very easy to read. Okay, so typically when you are writing or reading something that is written in APA style, you can recognize it right away because you will have a title page. If your professor requires you to have an abstract, then you will have an abstract. The professional published papers do require abstracts. You will see plenty of in-text citations, or you should be using in-text citations when you're doing research. And then because you have those in-text citations, you will have a reference page at the very end. Okay, and all of this you can find at the online writing lab at Purdue University. So this is a really great resource if you want to delve even deeper into different ways of citing. This is a really great website to go to. Okay. So the title page has since changed. It's since we went into the 7th edition. This is the most updated edition. So if you wrote a paper before 2019, you probably are noticing that there is no running head up here. There used to be the words running head, and then in all capital letters, a shortened version of the title or some kind of a description of the title. Well, that is gone now in student papers. What they did for the 7th edition is that they decided to kind of separate some of these formatting requirements between the student paper and the actual published paper. So the published paper still needs that, but the student paper, not so much. Okay, so this one starts with the title, and then you have some added information. Before it was the title, your name, the name of your university, and now there's more information here. So you're a little bit more specific, like this is the Department of Family and Community Health, and then they give you the university. Okay. Same thing with now you have to write the course number and the name of the course. This is Nursing 101, the nature of nursing practice. And then you have your instructor written and your due date. So the title page has changed a bit. Now, like I said, if your professor, if you were in a class and they said, I want something written in APA, and let's say they give you an example and it has a running head over here and it doesn't have certain things over here, then they're probably using an older edition. I would ask, do you want us to use the 6th edition? Or maybe they just tweaked it, right? So you just do what your professor tells you to do. Okay, something else that is now optional is the abstract. In student papers, it's not necessary to have an abstract anymore. However, if, like I said, since this is such a new update, it's only been there for 2 years, some professors may require you to write an abstract. And the abstracts are really helpful when you are writing a research paper, a very long paper. If you've ever read an academic article, what you might notice is that, every journal article is going to have an abstract, and it's pretty much a 150 to 250 word summary that is explaining the purpose of your paper and its most important points. And this is really great, because if you didn't have that abstract, you'd probably have to spend a lot of time reading, going through those pages and reading, is this real research, or is this article really going to help me with my research? You have to be flipping pages, but when you read the abstract, you have everything there that is going to tell you whether you can use this information or not, depending on the topic that you're researching. So that's what makes the abstract very helpful. Okay, it should be written after you finish writing your paper, but it is the second page in your research. So be careful with that, because some people want to write the abstract first. Sometimes professors want you to write the abstract even before you write the research paper, and that's okay, but that becomes more of a proposal. Okay, so the proposal abstract is a little bit different than just the abstract. Also, there's keywords down here, and these keywords are search terms. So just in case somebody wants to do more research on this, they'll see the search terms that that this student used, right, to write the research paper. Okay, so also what you're going to see in an APA paper is the in-text citations, and they literally mean what they say, okay? These are the citation information that is within your text, like within your paper. And you will have to use the author's last name, a comma, the year, comma, and the page number. And that's going to be for quotations, right? Like an author's exact words. So notice how this says cell phone users often exhibit poor posture, which puts increased strain on neck muscles and causes the induction of TPS and MPS. So I have here two authors, right? Their last names, the comma, the year, and the page number. And you can remember this because this is kind of like a little roadmap again for the reader. The audience member is going to say, okay, if I want to read more about TPS and MPS and how the posture is increasing strain on neck muscles, then I can go to this person's article, these people's article. This is fairly new information, right? And I can find this quote in page 82. So that's why it's really, really important to get this right, because you've just given your audience a little roadmap to go and read a little bit more about this, okay? If you're paraphrasing, let's say I want to say this, but I want to put it in my own words. Sometimes you need to put quotations in your own words because, maybe the sentences will flow better, or whatever you're writing is so complicated and you feel like, what, I just want to write it in a simple way so that my audience can really understand what I'm saying. So you might want to use a paraphrase. If you do that, you do not need the page number, okay? It's only when you are quoting directly that you need the page number, but you would need the authors and the year. Okay, so here we have the exact same sentence, but we have another method of citing. Again, we have the authors, the year, and the page number, but this time, this writer decided to introduce the quote with the author's name and year. If you're going to introduce the author's names and year, actually APA prefers that. They prefer you to say according to, or Sawyer and a career Matt argued, said, informed, whatever word you want to use, but you need to have the year and then the quote. And if you're going to paraphrase, you can do the same thing. You can introduce with the authors and the year, and you don't need the page number because it's a paraphrase, because you put it in your own words. Okay, and here's another demonstration of what happens when you have embedded a quote, but then the rest of the sentence is something that was your idea, or something that you are stating. It doesn't come from the author. So the way you're going to cite this is you are going to end the citation right after the quote. Notice how Sawyer and Akiramak found that cell phone users often exhibit poor posture, which puts increased strain on neck muscles and causes the induction of TPS and MPS. However, these are not the only issues that come from prolonged cell phone use. This was the part of the sentence that you said, okay? So that's why the page number ended right here. Okay, so this is what the reference would look like if you go to the very end of your research paper. You will have a list of an alphabetized list of all of the in-text citations, all of the sources that you used within your paper. So think about that. This is a good revision strategy. Like when you're done with your research paper, go through all the in-text citations, make sure that they're all listed in the reference, because if they're not, you can get cited for plagiarism, okay? Or let's say you have an author that you mentioned in your reference, right? But they never were mentioned, the in-text citation. that is also you not using APA appropriately. So you can get in trouble for that. So don't do that. Also, this is really, I know it's tedious for some people. Some people might say, you know what, they use punctuation here and they're using different, like here, this is in italics and all that. But if you understand the reasoning why they do all this, then it'll be easy for you. For example, they're going to start off with the author's last name. It's not really necessary to have their first names, just their initials. The last name is here because it's in alphabetical order, right? So it's really convenient to have the last name right here. Every element is separated by a period. So you have authors' names here, period, year, period, one of the titles here, period, another title, and all the information that goes with that title, period, and then the link that's going to get us to that information. So what they've done here is really clever also with the titles, because we have two back-to-back titles now. In order for the reader to distinguish between these two titles, one of them is written in lowercase and the other one is written capitalized and in italics. So that makes it really easy for the reader to say, oh, this is the title of the article and this is the title of the journal. And they do the same thing with the numbers. This is the volume number and this is the issue. This one's in italics, this one's in parentheses, and then these are just regular numbers that signify the page numbers. But because they're all different here, we as the readers know that these are, the different numbers. We're not going to read this as 262,000 or whatever. So everything has a reason, and that's why it's really important for you to punctuate correctly and use the lowercase when you have to, and italics and all of that. Okay, so just to talk a little bit more about paraphrasing correctly, I wanted to show you the difference between a correct and incorrect paraphrase. So here we have a direct quote, and we have adequate physical activity and exercises are important for both physical and mental health. So this was written by someone whose last name was Morgan in 2018, and we can find this quote on page 1. Most students will do this. This is an incorrect paraphrase. Sufficient physical activity and exercise are essential for physical and mental health. So at first it appears like this is a little bit different than this, but when you really look at it closely, they've used phrases in here that are exactly the same and in the exact same location. Okay, so which means the structure of the sentence did not change at all. What a student did here was they just plucked out a couple of words and like adequate and important, and they used a synonym for each of these, but everything else stayed the same. So you have to be very careful. Had this been submitted to Safe Assign, even though it has a citation right here, this constitutes plagiarism, okay? Because obviously the student did not take the time, or they just didn't understand, right? They did not internalize this quote enough to write it in their own words. This one, on the other hand, they've changed the structure. The health of one's body and mind depends on being physically active. So this, they use their own words, and they completely changed the structure of the sentence. So this is a much better paraphrase, and of course it is cited as well. So I have to stress just one more time that even though this has a citation, it is possible to commit plagiarism even if you cite something. So if you're not using quotation marks correctly, if you're not paraphrasing correctly, but you're still citing, that could still be plagiarism. Okay, so just some tips for paraphrasing correctly. You need to make sure that you read the source information enough times, because you may not be understanding. A lot of times when you can't put something in your own words, it's that you can't understand it. So make sure that you have a dictionary.com or something there to kind of help you understand this quote before you try to write it. don't just change the words, you need to change the entire sentence structure. So that means maybe moving ideas around, um, but really trying to understand it and write it in a way that maybe a friend of yours can understand. And then you want to compare the source and your paraphrase to make sure that they're not too similar. Okay, sometimes, if you are allowed, you can also use indirect sources in your writing. Now, I've been in research methods classes where the professors, I know that Dr. Romero Ramirez at one time said in a presentation where I was presenting, she told her students, I do not want anyone to use indirect sources, but I'm going to show you this anyway, just in case, because you could run into this. First of all, if you've ever done research in the past, typically you'll go to like an article to try to find your evidence or your quotes or whatever, and these articles have also cited other authors, right? So sometimes you want a quote that has been cited by that author um, in that article. So that's why that's called an indirect source. Sometimes professors don't want you to use those because they say, look, if you find an interesting article, I mean, and they quoted somebody, then go to the reference page and see where that quote originated and go to that source so that you can read, what's in front and behind that quote. You know what I mean? Go to the original source. But if you happen to not be able to do that, you can always indicate that this is an indirect source in your writing. So this is how it's done. Gratz and Reamer, right? They said this. Gratz and Reamer in 2004 indicate that college students use emotional dysregulation when they are in evaluative situations. So their quote was found in the article by Hartman et al. In 2017, page 144. So when I'm going to cite this in my reference page, I'm only going to cite these people. And the reason for that is because I can go back to this article and I can find the quote that belongs to these guys, which is this one here. Okay. So if I were, there's another way to do this. If I didn't want to introduce the authors, right, of the quote, if I just wanted to wait until the very end, then I would have to put these authors first and then and put as cited in this person's article. Okay, 2017, page 144. Okay. So are there any questions about indirect sources? It's a little bit tricky.
So I have one question. What, like an indirect source, would this be like information that you get from a research article that was sourced from another article?
That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Your primary research article sourced someone else. So yeah. And that's why the professors sometimes don't want that, because if you did find that, just go to that original source, go to that reference page, because whoever the author was that sourced that information, they had to have written the entire reference information for that source in their reference page. So you should really just go to that main, where did they get it? And look at that journal article that was originally written by the other person. I think the reason they do it is because, when we write, yeah, when we're looking for evidence, we are going to, take bits and pieces from places, but sometimes writers manipulate that. So if I wanted to write evidence about, college students and saying something about, their emotions, um, I could use just, one sentence to my advantage, but maybe the sentences or the explanation that came afterward was not really how I made it sound. You know what I mean? So that's why the professors tell you, just read that original source, so you can read the entire thing and what they were talking about. That way there's no manipulation going on. Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to show you what the reference would look like. Notice how here we have, again, Gratz and Reamer who said this, but we found their quote in Hartman's journal. So we're going to now list Hartman. Et al. Means and others. So if you have more than 2 authors, then you would just write et al. Here. But in your reference, you have to write all of the authors' names. So again, these are the authors and 2017. This is the title of the article, and this is the title of the journal. But I want to point out something in the title of the article when you use the colon, because sometimes the titles have colons within them. This is just one whole title right here. When you have they have that lowercase, going on, that format, but the word that comes right after the colon, regardless of whether it's the name of something or not, it has to be capitalized. So the first word's going to be capitalized, the first word after the colon. And if there had been any like title here or name of a person or place or thing, then you would have to capitalize it. Like your GPA, that's your grade point average. That's an acronym, so that needed to be capitalized. Okay. Okay. One of the types of references that you will probably be using a lot are journals. And you might be finding them in, for example, you might be finding them in databases and things like that. So here is a reference to a journal article. So again, you have 2 authors, you have your year, and then your 2 titles, right? The title of the article and the title of the journal, and then the journal information. And your links are now live. They have to be live links now. So remember that in your reference page. If you have a DOI or if you have this HTTP, you have to use the live link. And this is what it would look in the in-text citation. According to Watson and Gable, various cognitive processes directly relate to problems learning mathematics. Something else, if you happen to have a journal without the digital object identifier number, the DOI is called a digital object identifier number. It usually starts with number 10, and it's a way of kind of cataloging your sources. If you don't have this, you still have to provide the link and the retrieval date only if you think the information in the website or whatever or the journal is likely to change. Okay, if it's not likely to change, then you don't have to put it in there. But the reason for this is because like somebody might be using a website, they will use the retrieval date. And if somebody goes to that website and can't find that information, let's say after 5 years, well, they'll know, oh, okay, the website's been changed since then, That's why they put the retrieval date. But normally it's not necessary unless you think that the information will have changed. And I demonstrated again what an in-text citation might look like. I want to point out the and sign and the ampersand. Oh, this is a book. I'm sorry. Let me look at this. Oops, it's jumpy. Go back here. Okay, yeah, this is Wheeler, 2013, page 24. Okay, so here's the book. Notice how in the book, and this goes for the journals also. When you are writing the reference, you can use the and sign, but when you are writing within the text, you don't use the and sign, use the actual word and. And again, you have a quote here, so you're going to use the page number This is the title of the book. So now you need the author's last names, of course, the year, the title of the book and its edition if it has some, and then you have the publisher. Now, before they used to ask you for like publication information, like location and things like that, but now they don't. They just want the publisher. And if you do have a DOI number, because sometimes now books can be referenced with a DOI number, then they recommend that you would put that live link right there. Sometimes you would be using not the entire book, but maybe like a chapter in an edited book. And the edited book is usually when the chapters are, they have different authors, right? These editors have just gone all these articles together and turned them into a book. So here you will start again with the author's last name, the year, and then this is the title of the chapter, and then in the editor and the title of the book. Okay. So it's really simple here too, making it very, very easy for the reader to understand where this came from. And of course, they're going to cite Mead because Mead is the person that wrote the chapter. You might also be using government or organizational websites if you do this. Again, like for example, if you think that the website is likely to change, then you would use the retrieval date, but you don't need to if you don't think it'll change. Again, this is the title of the website, and this is the organization. And your links have to be live. So in your in-text citation, notice that you could say CDC 2018. And of course, you're not going to make up page numbers. Don't ever use like printed pages as the page numbers because that's not correct. Okay, here's a government report that is a PDF. So this comes from the U.S. Department of Education. You have the year and you have the title, and then here is the link to the PDF. If you were to cite this, you could just say according to the U.S. Department of Education and introduce that, the year. So if you haven't noticed yet, again, I can't stress enough that this is really for the benefit of the readers. It needs to be really easy for them to be able to access these sources that you use. So that's another reason why they are using live links now. And then when you have multiple authors, you have the reference page. So now in your in-text citation, you would be using et al. If you had more than two. So Casey, and actually there's more authors here, but you have to make sure that you list them all in your reference page. In your in-text citation, you can use the et al. Okay. And again, this is a journal article. This is the title. And very, very long title. And this is the title of the journal. So believe it or not, they also changed something in the references. They said now you can list up to 20 names. I guess there are authors out there, maybe sources that I don't know how 20 people could write something together, but yeah, it happens sometimes. You have a lot of researchers that contributed to these articles, so you can go up to 20 names. So like here, I think there are about, I don't know how many there are here. I listed them all. But again, in the in-text citation, you would use ETAL, which means and others. So if you happen to have more than 20 names, what'll happen is you'll use the ellipsis, the three dots, between the 19th author and the last listed author. So in other words, you're going to list all 19 and then dot, 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 and then the last author, and then the year, and then you go on with the rest of the information. Okay, and then some helpful resources are the OWL Purdue page. There's also the APA style quick answer guide. You can talk to a librarian or go to the UTRGV library, and of course the Writing Center. So I want to just open up the Writing Center website really quickly here, take you there. And this is our website. We've been working to improve it, but if you do need help from us, you can always schedule an appointment. If you go to the Here to Help and you click on online, then we have a couple of links right here. You can request a Zoom appointment, or you can use our send your assignment link. So since you all will probably be coming in with like possibly research papers, longer papers, things like that, then I would really recommend that you use the Zoom or the Skype writing consultation request. This is just a form that you fill out very quickly, and then you would decide what date you would like to have your appointment. And it's basically just, talking to a tutor, just like you're talking to me right now, or I'm talking to you. We'd use the share screen function so that we could talk about the paper. We would be looking at, if you guys were concerned with, for example, plagiarism, you could ask us, can you look at my citations, for example? Am I doing this correctly, or what do I need? We can, point some things out for you. We can also give you some resources that you can go to as well. And you can also, reach out to us if you're having, for example, let's say you're just starting the research paper, or you don't even know what the research question is going to be. You're totally confused about, how to even write a research paper. You need help with an outline or brainstorming. You can reach out to us for those things too. If you are going to come to us for questions about paraphrasing, I would recommend that you have your sources with you, so that we can see what you're trying to paraphrase, so that we can compare and see if you're actually paraphrasing correctly or not, and we can help you. So you just select your appointment time, and then upload your paper. You can say here that you want like invention or developing and supporting ideas, anything that you feel you need. And then it would ask you to upload your file, and then you would submit it, and then you would get a confirmation that we had set up your appointment for a Zoom session. But you can also do the send your assignment. Let's say you don't have time, right? And you just want to send in your assignment. Same thing, except you don't make an appointment. You just send your assignment in. There's an area here to show you, for you to upload a file. And then this one will go to our tutors, and they will respond. Okay, they will look at your paper, give you feedback in the form of comments, and they will respond to you within anywhere between 24 and 48 hours. So the Zoom, you get immediate feedback. This one, if you turn in your paper early enough, like let's say when you first finish it, it would be more difficult, I think, if you're in a time crunch and you really need the paper back, like the same day. Sometimes it's possible. I'm not saying it's not, but sometimes we have so many submissions that it's not possible, and we'll have to wait the 24 or 48 hours to get the paper back to you. But either way, these are two really good sources to use. I also want to put in the group chat before we leave. I want to give you a link And this is a link to one of our YouTube videos. We're starting a little YouTube library. And this is something that will give you information on plagiarism and APA as well. So does anybody have any questions or anything?
I have one question. So we actually have a lot of members who not only participate in writing research for class, but we do have members who will sometimes do poster conferences. And those often require you to write the information that's going to be presented on the poster, as well as the citations. Do you guys have any services related to that?
Sure, we can help you with that as well. We can help you with how to organize your poster. We can also help you with how to go about citing, how to organize your information, like put, you know, kind of extrapolate the main ideas from your research and place them on a poster. We can help you with that. We can also help you as an organization. Let's say you guys wanted to post something, right? But you're not sure that it sounds right, or if you're blogging about something and you want to write a paragraph, or you want to write even just a little things. We have our own social media. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we do that. We give each other feedback on our posts, and we have some really awesome tutors. I mean, I'm sure if somebody needed help with a blog post, I could always delegate it to one of the social media tutors, because they do that for us. So they're really skilled with that.
Oh, so you have
Yeah.
like people who look at just like social media stuff?
Yeah, we have a social media
Oh,
committee, but they actually, I mean, they would be excellent people to give other people advice about how to, run
okay,
their
yeah.
social media as well. Yeah. So, and they're all peers, they're students like you are. So, but they have, strengths in writing. They're very strong writers, and some of them have degrees that really help with that. Like we have a tutor who is currently studying marketing, so she really knows about colors, and she knows advertising and things like that, and all of those things come in really handy. Yeah. So even with personal writing, if you all are trying to maybe write a resume, or maybe you have a scholarship letter or appeal letter to financial aid, an important email to a professor, you can reach out to the Writing Center and we will help you with all of those things. And those are referred to as non-course based writing, like something that doesn't have to do with courses. We've even helped students with their own personal writing, like, oh, I'm writing a book, for example, and
Oh,
I want you to look at something, or a poem. I want you to look at something. And we usually pair them off with our creative writers, because we do have some students who are in the creative writing program. So yeah, we try to do that. We really want
yeah.
to pair off our students with the tutors that demonstrate those strengths as well.
Yeah, that's actually really great because not only do we have a lot of individuals who apply to be in research conferences, but we also have a lot of students who are applying to graduate school and who
Yes.
do personal statements
Mhm.
and who write CVs. And that's one of the bigger concerns that we get is personal statements when applying for certain graduate programs, or applying to scholarships, or applying to internships. So
Yes.
I'm really glad that you guys have that service available.
Sure. We have, just so you know, Andrea, we also have done presentations for example, like the PA program. They invite
Oh,
us it's been like three consecutive semesters, I think, where I've gone and given a presentation and given tips on how to write a personal statement. So yeah, that's come in very handy. We have helped a lot of students who need help, with personal statements, and I'm glad to say that we've been a little step in their little journey, because some of those students have gotten into those programs. So we're really happy for them, and that's what we want for them. So however we can help, just let us know. Maybe you guys have any ideas too.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would be really good. And if you guys like ever wanted to offer like a personal statement workshop in the future or something like that, feel
Mhm.
free to reach out because it's something that I know a lot of our members would be interested in. We have a few who are actually currently applying to grad school, and then we have a few such as myself who are going to be applying next semester.
Okay, great. Yes, we will definitely help you with that. Um, what else was I gonna say? I was gonna say something, but it slipped in my mind. But yeah, the writing center is a bit. Oh yeah, I wanted to say that we're also accessible to alumni. In other words, you guys who have already going on to grad school, even if you're not going to go on to grad school here at UTRGV and you need help getting into another university, that's fine. We will help you. Yeah,
Okay, all right, thank you. I didn't know that.
yeah. Just spread the word that we're available. As is the Career Center. I don't know if you guys know, but the Career Center will help alumni. You can always reach out to them for jobs and things like that.
I do have a question.
Yes.
If an alumni wanted to use your services, how would they do that? Is it just the same way as the students, or
Yes. Yeah, because they don't have to that you as far as I know, like our website, if you just go to www, let me write it down for you guys. Um, it's the Writing Center website does not have to go through my UTRGV. So I'm gonna probably, oh, you know what? Yeah, that's it. www.utrgv.edu/writing center. They don't have to like log in or anything. When they fill out the form, I know there are certain things that they're going to ask them, like, for example, ID. If you don't remember your ID, just put zeros in there. And in the explanation box, like if they ask you like course number, you can just put personal statement, you know. And what we're probably going to have to do is maybe create like a form for alumni. I think we're probably going to have to do that. That way, alumni doesn't feel lost that, oh, well, I don't have my UTRGV email anymore, things like that. How can y'all help me? So yeah, I'm going to have to talk to my digital media specialist and see what we can do with that. But yeah, for now, just they can go on the website, they can fill out the form, and just in the explanation box put say I'm alumni and I would like help with this. Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. We have a question in the comments.
Let's see. Does the Writing Center and tutors work with students with disabilities such as dyslexia or a learning disorder? Okay, so we do have accessibility to all the students. Like we will accept anybody that wants our help. If we did have a student with a disability, we would probably work closely to or with the accessibilities office to see how we could work together to help students. Sometimes students reach out to us, they already have, for example, software that would help them, interact with us through Zoom, for example. We try to accommodate, like I know that during COVID times, we were closed, but some students wanted to come into the Writing Center. We were accommodating them with appointments. So yeah, we try our best to do that. And I know that some students would come into the Writing Center before COVID. They would have like interpreters with them. I mean, we're okay with that. So yeah, we'll try our best. Do we have experts as far as like how do we help a student with dyslexia? We don't have experts um, who can do that. But if you are a person that has a special need, I think you should divulge that at the beginning of the session. Like say, you know what, I have dyslexia or I have a learning disability. And then we can point you in the right direction at least and see how we can help or work with you all or the accessibilities office together to help you.
Thank you for that. He asked a really good
That was a
question.
very good question. Yes.
So, anyone else have any questions or before we end the session for today? Okay. So I think that's gonna be it for today.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough, honestly.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you so much for coming by and presenting to us. This has been really helpful information. I learned things about APA that I didn't know, so that was really wonderful, and thank you for that.
Okay, you're welcome. You're so welcome. So, like I said, if y'all need anything, just reach out. Thank you so much.
thank
Of
you.
Bye-bye.
course. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.